Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Knack, and I'm joined, as always, by my fellow co-host, Raj and FAAB.
Yeah.
Well, with week two almost in the books, with a nice little Monday night showdown to follow between the Eagles and the Falcons. Like always, what we're going to be doing is a quick recap of week two, or the Sunday game, should I say, showcasing some winners and losers, and as well as some news and injury updates. And as most of you might know, it was a crazy week of injuries, week two. The injury bug struck very, very quickly and often on Sunday, which kind of sucks because you don't want to see injuries, especially this early in the fantasy season. You know what happens? It's funny. One person gets injured, people get injured. You laugh about it with your buddies in your league, and you lost this guy. But once rosters really start dwindling, it really takes the fun out of it for a little bit. Like you want to play with your stars for a little bit. So
week two decimated rosters this week.
Yeah,
decimated them.
Yeah, it's just not fun, but we'll definitely dive into that. Before we start, I want to please be sure to follow us, guys, on Instagram, Twitter, on TikTok, and also subscribing to our YouTube channel. We have constant content being uploaded daily to keep you up to date with all fantasy-related news, and of course, very funny memes at the same time to keep everyone laughing and smiling. And I think they're going to need some of that this week. So.
The GIF that came to mind was that episode on The Simpsons where Krusty the Clown is beating on that guy, and then the kid's like, "Stop! He's already dead." Like that's week two. Like
that's
Ralph Wiggum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's week two.
That's week two.
I'm praying that there's no injuries tonight. And our Survivor League is also in full swing. There was a lot of upsets this week. So 27 entries again went down this week. So we have officially no more Bush League Huddle hosts in the Survivor pool. We are all gone.
Who was left?
There are 25 entries left after week two.
Who was the last one left out of us three?
Out of us three.
I didn't lose week one. I think you guys are both out week one, no?
I took the Bengals like everybody else on this planet.
I don't remember who I took week one, but I won, and I took Baltimore this week. And we lost at home to Vegas.
That one was a shocker.
That one was brutal.
Yeah.
That one was brutal. The other one the other big one, I guess you could say, was 8% of the league was the 49ers. Then 3 people lost with the Cowboys. A couple people took the Lions, and one guy interestingly took the Miami Dolphins. So
that's wild.
On Thursday night.
That's ballsy, man.
Ballsy.
Yeah, that was pretty much the ballsy pick of the week, I believe. Everything else was pretty. The Chargers were some entries that won. Texans, Steelers, Chiefs. Chiefs was pretty ballsy too, I got to say. They won on that last play, and also the Jets. And then there's actually one person who took the Eagles tonight, so TBD. Could be down to 24 if Atlanta squeezes out a victory. Okay, well, look, we have a big, full, fun-packed episode for you guys tonight. So we're going to dive right into the winners and losers of week two. Obviously, your obvious winners include people like Alvin Kamara, who scored 4 touchdowns, 44 points, and I think whoever had Kamara in their roster this year, or this week, should I say, took home a victory. There was also Kyler Murray, the perfect passer rating. Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of welcome to the NFL day
Finally.
as well. So
Maserati Mar.
Finally, it's like his second week.
Yeah, second week of the season. I know everyone was freaking out. Everyone kind of freaking out about that. But I want to ask you, Raj, what stood out for you? Who is your big winner or winners for Sunday?
Yeah, so I know he didn't necessarily have an amazing point total, but Josh Jacobs, for me, was a big winner, along with Matt LaFleur and Malik Willis. The Packers had 53 runs for 261 yards. Josh Jacobs had 30 carries, 150 yards, only 13 fantasy points. He did have that fumble, which would have brought him to 16 points. But what a performance, knowing that, A, you have a QB that has been on the roster for 3 weeks, The Colts knowing very well that the Packers are just going to run the ball and them smashing it down their throats, off tackle, middle, Jaden Reed end arounds. I think there was some Dontavian Wicks end arounds. I feel like every wide receiver on the on the Packers had some form of end around or rush. But
Willis only
what
had 15 attempts.
Willis only had 15 attempts. Like and there was some, I think we were all watching McAfee where Belichick and Lombardi were kind of talking about what the hell is Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator of the Colts, doing? What was he doing in week 1 against the
Inexcusable.
Texans? Inexcusable. Joe Mixon ran roughshod on them.
Mhm.
And now Jacobs and the Packers ran absolute roughshod on them. It was a really, really bad performance. I need to tip my like Matt LaFleur to me is one of the best coaches in the league. Like
Agreed.
it's been proven many
Yeah.
times. I think it was proven with Rodgers, how he kind of resurrected his career. It's been proven obviously with Jordan Love, what he did with him last year. Now it's being proven again. QB down, new QB in, a QB that everyone left for dead. Absolutely knows how to run a game plan. So for me, that was like one of my big winners was the Packers' offensive performance this week too.
Yeah, and I just honestly, like, you had a full week to prepare, knowing I don't care what the media or Lafleur was saying. Like, Jordan Love wasn't playing that game, so you knew full
Yep.
well they were coming out and going to try to run the ball down your throat. They knew what they were going to do, and they still couldn't stop it. It's absolutely inexcusable from the whole coaching staff, from top to bottom.
Yep.
Obviously, the defensive coordinator, but just as much on the head coach. Like,
Yep.
that was really, really tough to watch. And you
Yeah.
know what? Like you said, kudos to the Packers, kudos to that coaching staff to sticking to that game plan. But I mean, it was working. So
Yeah. And if I could just add, I think to me, Josh Jacobs rest of season ranks. Like, I don't know where you guys, I'd be curious to hear what you guys think in terms of rest of season, but he has to be, I mean, he's easily top 10. Like, is he close to top 5, top 6 potentially?
he's got to
No,
score some touchdowns.
Yeah.
no,
And
He's gonna have to
he's not
score
making
some
top
it right.
5.
touchdowns. He's gonna
Not for me.
help him, and he's not gonna rush for 150 yards every game. Like, there's gonna
No,
be teams,
obviously.
the next few teams that are playing. I don't know who they're playing next week, but trust me, the defensive coordinator watched this game and is gonna be ready for the run game, because they're not just going to turn around and give Malik Williams 30 passing attempts a game,
I think the people that
or
drafted
Willis.
Josh Jacobs as their RB2 are going to be very happy that they get some RB1 return for the rest of the season. Because I know that like a lot of people were down on him to be in the season, which I'm still not really sure why.
The first half of the
Yeah, I
Eagles game.
suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess so. But like he's always going to be running the rock pretty well. I mean, if we have a lot of guys that just popped again this week that like makes you wonder for rest of season RB ranking, like with Kamara that wasn't there before, James Cook now that's 2 weeks in a row, Devon Achan that's 2 weeks in a row. They're putting up some big points, right? Like it's reshuffling my entire idea of what a top RB is right now.
yeah. Listen, well, honestly, even if you drafted him as an RB1, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
honestly, the RB1 is going to be, he's going to have RB1 value the rest of the year. What about you, Fab? Who was another one, another big winner for you this week?
I got a lot to choose from because there's a lot of my guys that I liked a lot this week that actually popped off. But I'm actually going to go with Brock Bowers. Just because, like, you know what? He came as advertised. Like, week 1, he didn't really put up as many points as people thought he would. But he was much more heavily involved this week within the Raiders offense. Like, they really generated a lot of looks for him. And after 2 weeks, he's a rookie tight end and he's leading the league and he's leading the NFL in receiving and yards and receptions and targets. He's just missing the touchdowns, but I think those are going to come eventually. But yeah, Brock Bowers to me, like he's definitely coming as advertised. And if you drafted him and you're starting him as your week as your tight end one, I think you're very very happy with the rest of season outlook and what you're going to get out of him because they're gonna they're gonna manufacture touches for him. You can already see that.
Yep.
Is it sustainable, you think,
I think so.
for a full season?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah,
I think so
I
too.
I think
I
it kind of takes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it kind of, with Devontae Adams obviously still there. I think it takes Jacoby
Yeah.
Myers a little
yeah
bit down a peg,
yeah
in
Yes.
my
That's
eyes.
exactly
I
it.
know
yeah.
last year he had a very good year opposite Devontae Adams, but I think now with the emergence of Brock Bowers and how good he's been through 2 weeks, I think it does eliminate Jacoby Myers a little bit as his value goes down just
Yeah.
a bit.
I agree. I think he's going to be the odd man out in all this. I agree 100% because now Devontae, like even him, he went off this week even after I had him on my hate list, so I'm very happy to eat crow for that. I made a mistake, and I'm quite happy that I did, because you kind of want to see the stars show up when they're supposed to. So Devontae came out, nice 26 fantasy points. That's great. But before Jacoby Myers, I think I don't think Gardner Minshew is the guy to sustain 2 top end wide receivers and obviously a top 10 tight end. So that's going to be mine. I agree with you on that.
Bowers has, I believe it's against the Ravens. I'm looking at it right now. 19 snaps from the slot. Myers had 27. So Myers obviously is typically a very slot heavy guy. So I agree with you, Knack. If anyone is going to lose out on that, I don't think Michael Mayer was going to be an option. Where they drafted Bowers, it's you have to give him most of the touches.
The investment they put in Bowers, they're going to have to. They have to use him.
Yeah, and he's going to catch more of the underneath stuff. So I think it does make sense. I think it's definitely sustainable.
One of my winners for the week actually was Mr. Quentin Johnson. I know everyone, including I think all three of us, were down on this guy. We called him Stone Hands and all that. We thought, Josh Palmer was going to take the lead, and they drafted Ladd McConkey, and he showed up yesterday and played a great game. Caught was it 2 touchdown passes yesterday? He's coming along. I think he's trying to block out the noise. I think he's starting to have a huge chip on his shoulder, trying to prove everyone wrong, because it's been everywhere, right? It's been well documented that this guy is not a good wide receiver. So very nice to see that he came out and had a strong week 2 performance. And I think you'll see that he'll be a big name on the waiver wire this week. Anyone else that stood out for you, Raj?
Yeah, Zay Flowers, 11 targets, 22 points, 7 catches, 91 yards. I believe he scored a touchdown as well. I think the big thing with Zay Flowers is the first game, and even throughout his entire career so far, it's been a lot of short passing stuff, trying to make him be a yards after catch guy. I think they finally realized he has a ton of speed. He was someone who was compared to Steve Smith in the draft, right? So 4.6 average depth of target in week 1. It bumped up to 11 in week 2. So I think that's the formula to get him involved and get that offense rolling a little bit. Yes, they lost, but I thought Lamar looked a little bit better. He ran a little bit less, but they're going to have to keep that downfield passing game with Zay Flowers and the Ravens. So I did really like what I see for him to be a potential maybe high-end WR2, mid-tier WR2 for the rest of the season.
Yeah, hard to disagree with that assessment, really. I think, look, Baltimore doesn't really have many options, so they're going to have to look to Zay Flowers to make plays. But I think, as you alluded to, he can. He's not just that short route run guy.
Yeah.
He has speed. He can beat you on the outside. So use it to your advantage. And I think we did see some of that on Sunday, although they are 0-2 to start the season. FAAB, anyone else for you?
I got to go again with my boy Chris Godwin. I called him out last week, and he is currently at this as we record this podcast, he is the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football on fantasy points cumulative over 2 weeks. He's in that slot role right now, like similar to how Cooper Kupp operates in the LA offense. Last week he got 27% target share. This week he got 42% target share. The guy has 15 receptions on 16 targets. He's money. And he's really thriving in that role. And you're even seeing it with how Baker Mayfield is performing. He's performing exceptionally well. So for me, it's Chris Godwin. And if you snag this guy late in your drafts, you have a bona fide every week wide receiver 1, which is exceptional. So kudos to you if you drafted him.
He's in a contract year, if I'm not mistaken.
That I can't speak to, but let's just say he is for the sake of the podcast. Yes, he's in a contract year. Yes.
FAAB, I loved you mentioned the Cooper Kupp aspect because their current OC, Liam Cohen, worked with Sean McVay.
That's correct.
So, and this type of offense is perfect for Baker Mayfield. He's very used to it.
Very perfect.
He's cooking right now. He's looking really good as well.
Yeah.
If you look at the top quarterbacks right now, I know it's week 2 there. Like, obviously, it's very early. It's all names that, like, you would never expect to ever be there in the top 10, let alone top 5, right? Like Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, all these guys that, like, you would never, ever want to roster or never even want to start.
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
And you know what? For Godwin, I think That injury really hurt him because I'm looking through his stats now. He was like a 14, 15 yard per catch guy before his injury. And he just turned into like a kind of like a really big time possession receiver. So it's really good to see.
I'll give a last one here. I got to give a shout out, very big winner of the week to Nico Collins.
Yes.
I think after week one, the noise was trying to, Stephon Diggs is the one there. He's the number one. He's the number one. I think Nico Collins took that a little personal. It was his team last year. I think it's going to continue to be his team going forward. He balled yesterday. 27.5 points, scored that beautiful touchdown, bringing people into the end zone with him.
Yeah.
He is a dog. I think he is surpassed as a low-end wide receiver one going forward for sure in that high-powered Houston offense.
He's the alpha on that team, and you see it now. Like,
I think Diggs is going to be that red zone type guy that still could catch whatever. So he's going to reap the benefits. Diggs is going to do well just because of that touchdown, but I think Diggs is going to become more touchdown dependent than Nico Collins. Nico Collins is going to get the yards and the receptions, whereas you'll see a lot more, those 4 or 5 catch games for Diggs with a touchdown, 35 yards type deal.
I have a question. Where do you guys see Nico in terms of rest of season wide receiver ranks? Say that 2 times fast.
Low end WR1.
Yeah, he's top 12.
Or like superstar wide receiver 2.
So like, yes, because I remember you did say low end WR1. So in terms of names, like, do you like Amon-Ra more, Garrett Wilson?
At week 2 right now, rest of season, yes. I'd still do like Amon-Ra more rest of season, but it's very close. It's very close. Garrett Wilson is very, like, after the top 5, after those top 5 guys, like, you can just mix match like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can put them in a blender. Whatever one comes out, like, I'm okay with.
Rodgers can still sling the ball, but he's not putting up the numbers, right? Like, don't get me wrong, he can still throw a ball, but the numbers are just not there, right? So far, the numbers are not there. Maybe he hasn't played for over a year, right? So the numbers are not there. So I'm a little bit concerned going into week 3 with Garrett Wilson. I think right now I've got Nico Collins ahead of him at the moment until
I'm not that concerned because I feel like they have to still create that tempo and that timing that still has to develop, and it hasn't had the chance to develop yet because he was injured for a whole season and all that. So I think more towards like midway of the season, like this needs like a few more games to really blow up. And then like if you ask me like by like week 6 or 7, then I'm gonna start to have some concerns.
Yeah,
but as of right now,
and both backs were over 20 points this week, right? I think they're going to be more of a running team. I think they're going to be more of a give to the running backs a lot more. Like Brees Hall, 24.4 points.
Yeah, but you look
Braylon Allen, 22.3 points.
You look at Allen Lazard in week 1, like he popped. That eventually will be Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, but the Lazar was a fugazi, I find. Like, it's not sustainable.
No, what I mean by that is it's not sustainable, but what I mean by that is because Lazard has that already existing chemistry with
for sure. He has the trust.
And,
he has Rodgers' trust, and
I don't
you've
know
known
if Garrett
his whole
Wilson
career.
has that trust yet with Rodgers, but that's what's going to take time to develop.
Rodgers has always been more of a trust guy.
Yeah,
like when Rodgers was with the Packers, LaFleur conceded some of the offense to Rodgers because Rodgers is more of a like feel it out, back shoulder, kind of like one-on-one matchup guy. So I think he's trying, like, to FAAB's point, I think he's trying to build that trust with Garrett Wilson, figure out how do I throw back shoulder, how do I throw in breakers, whatever. So I think it'll come.
Yeah, it'll come for sure. It's just that right now, I think I like Nico Collins better. He's had a whole year to gain Stroud's trust, right? And I don't know, they look really, really good together. Okay, let's move on to some losers of the week. Fab, what do you've got for loser?
So I called out Isaiah Likely on TikTok for a few people that were asking me who do I start. So I'm going to take some heat for this, and I apologize. But I had Isaiah Likely pegged quite a bit on a few rosters and suggesting that a lot of people start him over even Mark Andrews in some scenarios. So first and foremost, I got to take the heat on that.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll take the L on that. I really thought that
accountability.
Yeah, 100%. But like, listen. I don't have the stats in front of me, but he was still heavily involved within the offense. I think that game just got away from them a little bit, and it showed. And I guess we're always going to go back to Mark Andrews. But at the same time, though, I wouldn't be overly concerned for rest of season going forward. I think you're still going to get some very good, solid value out of Isaiah Likely for rest of season. But
But are you
he did.
comfortable starting him every week? That's the problem.
I mean, it depends on who like. I'll start him over Jake Ferguson. I'll start him over.
When Jake Ferguson is healthy?
Yeah.
No,
Oh
absolutely
no,
not for
no,
me.
no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it depends on matchup, but the conversation's there. I think, like, prior to this week, I was like, yeah, you can start Isaiah Likely over Brock Bowers. I don't think that conversation's ever happening
Oh
Don't
again.
listen
boy.
to FAAB
Oh,
anymore.
yeah, I think if there was
Hey,
a
man,
mute button, I'd mute you right now.
I got some good takes and I got some
Just
bad
like
takes, ladies
Hand
and
over the
gentlemen.
TikTok account.
yeah,
Hand
yeah.
I
over
got
the
some good
TikTok
takes. And I got some bad takes. Hey, we all take L's. I
Yeah,
took a few this
Honestly,
week. It's all good.
I thought Isaiah Likely was gonna be the fab buster of the week. That was gonna be bust. Like that people were gonna throw all that money and we were gonna regret it down the line. I'm not saying he's gonna be eliminated and not play, like he's gonna be in that offense, but I think Mark Andrews is still there, and I think we were again that week one like jitter. We got to get him. That guy balled. We gotta pick him up. But I don't know. I think it's gonna be tough to start week in and week out.
I feel like owning both him and Andrews is just a recipe for disaster and just causing
Yeah,
yourself a ton of stress.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What about you, Raj?
Bears offense. Really,
Yeah.
really. I was really looking forward to
Good
that
one.
Sunday nighter. Really,
Yeah,
really
me
looking
too.
forward to that
Yeah,
Sunday
so
Me
was
too.
I.
nighter.
Yeah.
Me too.
It was an absolute dud. Caleb looks lost.
Is he
And
done?
No.
no, he's not done. He's not done. But when I was
Caleb,
scout,
if you're listening, we wish you the best, okay?
we're gonna have to
Thank
get
you.
Ryan. We're gonna have to get Ryan back on to do
I would love to get Ryan back
a
on
memoriam on Caleb
and
Williams'
yeah,
career
what
since
he
we're already
call for
calling him
like
done.
4,000
Remember
yards
when he
and
said
like
they were going to be
35
what 7-1
touchdowns or
or something the
something.
first 8 games? Was
That
that
was
the one?
Sam.
That was
Oh,
Sam. That
Sam.
was
Excuse
Sam.
me. Excuse
That
me.
was Sam.
My apologies.
So
In memoriam.
I was going through the Bears Reddit account during the off season, and a lot of Bears fans were asking for Eberflus to be fired because they wanted an offensive minded head coach for Caleb Williams, and I kind of see why. The offense looks broken. O-line can't block pressure. They can't block any type of stunts or twists. They had 7 sacks yesterday and 23 pressures. D'Amico Ryans threw so much pressure at them, and the offensive line could not sustain any type of protection. Shane Waldron, I don't know what he's doing from an offensive perspective. It looks like the Seattle Seahawks offense from last year. And I see why the Eagles went after Saquon Barkley and got rid of DeAndre Swift. He bounces, runs all the time. He does not cut back inside.
Yeah.
You had him, I think, last year. Like super frustrating. Like you see the hole, get into the hole. He bounces everything out. Very
Yeah, he does.
frustrating.
Yeah, it was very frustrating with Swift. But I heard Colin today. I saw a little clip, and he was saying that it's not that he looks lost, but the Bears don't know what to do. He's like, the talent is there, but the
Yeah.
Bears don't know what to do with it. They've never had a 4,000-yard passer in their history. Just think about that. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
I think they're they everyone said, oh, he's got his toys and it's on Caleb, it's on Caleb. Yes, sure, some of it is on Caleb, 100%. He does look a little lost out there, and he took some bad sacks too yesterday. He tries to scramble, this guy's got to learn how to throw the ball away, but I think Chicago does not know what to do with him. I think Chicago is lost too, like you said, man. The OC, it's just they
Run the
don't know.
ball. Figure out how to
Yeah,
run the ball.
yeah,
Like,
they've got 3 backs there. Like, use them. Why can't you? Like, he's a rookie. There's going to be struggles, but you got to run the ball. And
yeah.
I don't know. I think they just don't know how to use him properly at the moment. Another loser of the week. I'll give one here. Mr. Xavier Worthy. Everyone got all high and
You're
mighty with
so
his
happy to say
3
this one,
touches.
eh?
Yeah,
You're
because I was
so
right.
happy.
Like we have to relax. It wasn't sustainable. What did he do this week? 4.2 points. So all of you guys who creamed yourselves and put him in your fantasy lineups for week 2, when I told you
Wow.
beware,
Wow.
well, you got what you deserved. You should have put him on your bench and just chilled out a little bit. I will say this though, with the news that Hollywood Brown is now out for the season, he will continue to week in and week out carve out a little bit more of a role. So maybe you'll see him do better later into the season. But for right now, I think we need to calm our horns on Xavier Worthy.
What was
Mahomes
the
was
word you wanted to say, Nike? Say it. Yes, we do need to calm ourselves. Yes, on Xavier
but
Worthy.
Mahomes was bad yesterday, and
Yeah,
like Kelsey was a dud. It was an
Yeah,
absolute.
Kelsey's on the loser squad as well, I
yeah.
believe. Now
That's.
that we're
I
on
was
the
gonna bring him
KC
up, but
shot, but
Oh
yeah,
boy,
1.6 points. The people who drafted him high,
third
Lucas,
third round pick.
but even that, like,
yeah,
so
over a Laporta or a McBride, but
in 2 games, he has 8 points.
yeah, he didn't start well last year either. And look, he
No,
showed up for the playoffs, right? But the playoffs don't mean anything for fantasy football. So we knew there was going to be a regression year.
it's going to be really tough for those people that really invested a high draft pick in Travis Kelsey. You know who you are, and it's going to be really hard for them to come out of this hole. But we wish you the best, Lucas.
Anyone else quickly before we move on to the injuries? Raj?
I have as speak of memoriams, the people claiming Joe Burrow's demise. 19 points, 258 yards, 2 TDs. Amazing chemistry to Gesicki. Gesicki had a great game. Well, I think we'll probably talk
Yeah,
about him later. Great shot to Burton. Two really nice TD throws to Yosh. I thought it was Loshavas, but it's an I.
Yes, Josebas.
yeah.
Yosevas.
It's a capital I.
But he looked good, and he handled pressure well. He got hit. He got up. So Burrow's still good,
For those
guys.
who are wondering, he's Romanian and what? What's the
Filipino.
and Filipino. For
Yeah,
those who are wondering,
yeah, yeah. Joe Burrow's still good.
I don't think a single person was wondering.
I googled it.
Fun
I looked
fun
it up.
fact of the
No,
day,
I looked it up.
guys.
I was
yeah,
Fun
curious.
fact of the Josevius' heritage.
and
We pulled it
Yosevais,
up.
you're
We
just
pulled it
adding
up
an extra
on
eye for him.
I'll give you the last word, Fab. Quick 10 seconds. Another loser here.
Michael Pittman Jr. And this is more, I think, of a product of his environment right now more than anything else. I don't think AR is able to sustain a sort of a possession receiver that is Michael Pittman at the moment. So this is the second week in a row where he puts up a dud. And this is another one of those scenarios where, like, you probably drafted him to be like a high end wide receiver 3, and he might not even make it into your starting lineup next week,
I think
which
people
sucks.
dropped him even like
Yes,
Yeah,
wide receiver
yeah, that
two,
too.
and
Yeah,
he
and
got
starting him as
paid.
a wide receiver two,
no,
and he
because I
got
know I
paid.
know in
Yeah,
our
Paid.
league, I think Robbie has him, and he drafted him as his wide receiver 3. But yeah, in larger leagues, he's probably your starting wide receiver 2. And I don't know, like Alec Pierce is like killing it right now on 3 targets and 3 receptions every single game. I mean, Michael Pittman did get more targets this week, which is a little bit more encouraging. But his playing, Anthony Richardson's playing style is going to hurt Mr. Pittman very, very, very bad, very
yeah.
bad.
It wasn't. He had a. And that was another guy who had a bad game
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
All right, let's move on to the injuries since we've got an abundance to share here. Obviously, first and foremost, we've all seen the one with Tua Tagovailoa, concussion, out indefinitely. He
Prayers
did
up for Tua, guys. Prayers up for Tua. Prayers up for Tua.
little fin action,
Fins up for Tua.
fins
Little
up.
fins up salute for Tua.
He did publicly say that he's not planning to retire, and he's going to work with a concussion specialist, and not going to rush back, and we'll see what that looks like. But I think out indefinitely for sure. Justin Herbert too looks to be like a little high ankle sprain. He did finish off the game, but was walking gingerly afterwards. Still waiting word on an MRI, so we'll keep monitoring for that. Big one coming out of Kansas City is Pacheco, fractured fibula. He's going on IR. Is slated to
Horrible.
miss 4 to 6 games, but the reports are suggesting 6 to 8. A little bit of an interesting tidbit here to follow. He's on IR for 4 weeks and then has 21-day window to be put back on the active roster. So if that would be 7 weeks, so if it really does take 8 weeks, they'll have to carry him on the roster and make him inactive. So that could be something to watch. If he's not fully healthy, there's reports suggesting that he could be put on season-ending IR as well.
Okay, so that was my question. So after that 21-day window, if they can't put him on the active roster, is he out for the season?
Yes, if they have
Okay.
to put him back on IR, he's out for the season. But they could put him on the active roster, but then he'd count toward an inactive and a roster spot.
Right. Yeah, he'd be
When
burning a
he's on
roster
injured
spot
reserve
basically.
and
Yeah,
practice window of 21 days, he does not count for a roster spot.
got it.
In my day, fractured fibulars were you'd be out for the season.
Well,
So
they just said Mark
In
Andrews.
my
Mark
day,
Andrews took 2 months to get back from a fractured fibula, and he wasn't back up to speed until like 6 months later. So,
yeah,
you
I
guys
feel
remember?
like this is a big injury for a running back. I don't think
Yeah,
he's going to be
huge,
back to
huge.
form even after he comes back from IR. And
No, it's
was
going
it
to take time
reports?
to burst.
Yeah, reports came out the Chiefs are already looking to host Kareem Hunt.
Yep, we're going to be talking about that
Yeah,
in the Fabs, excuse me, the Fab segment. But yeah, that could be a pretty interesting reunion. There was CMC who was placed on IR, who's slated to miss the next minimum 4 games with a calf and Achilles. We told everyone buyer beware on CMC, so hopefully some of you listened. Aaron Jones was also a little bit banged up. Ty Chandler took over, so something to monitor. Doesn't look too serious, but maybe just take a look. Tajay Spears as well, ankle, but not sure how bad that is as well. There's Joe Mixon who left the game, tested the bike on the sideline, came back, and then left again. So getting an MRI. I know D'Amico Ryan stated that they'll evaluate throughout the week. Rashad White, groin injury. I know he did come back in at a certain time, but monitor that. Might be Bucky Irving season sooner rather than later. Also, the wide receivers. Cooper Kupp was spotted leaving in a walking boot, and then it's since said that he's candidate for IR, so he could also miss the next 4 games. So that's now Puka and Kupp on the shelf for a minimum of 4 games, and they have a bye week 6, so you won't see either of them back before week 7. So just be prepared for that.
the Rams are taking a beating. Like not just their skill positions, but
Yeah, their
even
whole
like their
team's injured.
offensive line
Their
and the
whole
guys
offensive
on
line.
defense and everything like that. Like they're just taking an absolute beating, and it came out of nowhere. Like
yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. The list goes on, guys. We're not done just yet.
Nak, you want to
Justin
take a water break?
Jefferson.
It's been a while. It's okay.
Yeah, here. Let me just take a little sip here.
You hydrate yourself. Hydrate.
Thank you,
How
Fab.
now,
I
brown
like you see
cow?
how
How
our
now, brown
co-hosts we
cow?
stick together. Everyone sticks together here. So Justin Jefferson also left the game with a calf injury. He didn't come back. He is saying he should be fine for week 3, but we'll monitor that. T. Higgins remained out with a hamstring. We know how those can linger. He's trending towards playing week 3, but might not get a full workload even if he is active. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a really interesting one, pending an MRI, but there was rumblings that it could be an MCL sprain. So that obviously can sideline you for a few games as well, but there's nothing definitive there.
He came out and then came back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He did, but they're saying it could be a low grade MCL
Yeah.
sprain. It wouldn't be too crazy, maybe a game or two, but
But he plays through anything, eh?
Yeah, he's a tough.
yeah, he's a
Yeah,
tough
he's a tough
guy.
kid.
He's
Yeah.
a tough guy. Keenan Allen also didn't play with a heel. I don't like that. Obviously, with his injury history, this guy just can't get it right.
No,
So I'm fading Allen at the moment. AJ Brown too was a surprise. A surprise this week. He was declared out with a hamstring injury, and there's reports also saying that he could as well miss week 3. So again, hamstring injuries for wide receivers, you don't want to see them. They tend to linger. Hollywood Brown, as we mentioned, is also out for the season. Shoulder injury, clavicle type deal. So that's not going to be. That's going to need the whole year to repair. Then finally came out just recently that Debo Samuel also has a calf strain. So when it rains, it pours with the 49ers and with injuries in general. But he's got a calf strain, excuse me. Maybe need some more water. A calf strain and expected to miss a few weeks per Ian Rappaport. So again, calf, you don't want to be seeing that for a wide receiver either. And we just saw how McCaffrey is showing. So something to monitor for sure. Could be Ayuk and Kittle season right now, and obviously
yeah.
keep riding Jordan Mason. He is a definite top 5 must start play each and every week that CMC is out. And then rounding out the injuries for week
Eh,
1, if there wasn't
Wait,
enough
hold on a
already,
second. Is it just me,
for
or
week
are a
2.
lot of the injuries very NFC specific? Like,
Yeah, there's a
like,
lot. There really is a lot NFC
like
specific. Besides T Higgins, Well, I mean,
Like,
hurt
what do you
Okay.
think
Hollywood
this does
Brown.
for like if you're the Bucks right now, and if you're the Saints, like your offenses are rolling, and you see all these injuries to your to your direct competition, some of them in the same division. Like you're
You better
obviously
take it and run.
yeah, like you're obviously not happy with players getting injured. At least I hope you're not. But this is a great opportunity for these two teams that
You got to seize it.
yeah, like at the beginning of the season, we're like, these guys are barely going to make the playoffs. And now, like, okay, things are breaking right after 2 weeks. And a lot of the star players from the other big competition in the NFC starting to fall off a little bit. Like, this could be interesting.
The Niners are used to playing without Debo, though. Like it's
Yeah, but now it's
you,
no Debo and
yeah,
Yeah.
CMC.
and
Like
CMC.
now you're
Yeah,
starting to
And
take away some star power
and
on
Purdy
this team,
hasn't
right?
looked great the
even the
first two
Rams, too.
games.
Like, we just said about the Rams lost their top wide receivers and their entire offensive line. Like, we're going to get into like in the FAAB right now, but I'm curious, like, are you even going to start any of the other pass catchers from the Rams at some point in the future? Like, I don't see how that could be enticing
No,
at all, but I don't want to get
yeah,
ahead. We're going to jump
yeah.
into the tight end part.
Did you see the stat that San Fran has not won in Minnesota since 1992?
Did not.
I
That's
did not know
wild.
that.
That's a wild, wild stat.
See, that's much more of a fun fact than Andre Osavias's heritage.
You've messed up his
Poor
name
guy.
the third time.
Yeah, Yosivas.
Yosavaiasis.
Yosavias's,
Yosavaia.
Yosavias, Yosavias's.
And look, to round out the last injury of the week so far, pending Monday night, Evan Ingram hurt his hamstring, another hamstring, in warmups, and was a surprise inactive on Sunday as well. We all had high hopes for Evan Ingram in as a top
Yep.
5 fantasy tight end, so that hurts going forward as well. So something to monitor for week 3.
I just want to add to the injury report. I would be remiss if we did not bring this up, but there was a kicker that was injured this week. Graham Gano also
Graham
pulled his
Gano, you're right.
hamstring during warmups, and the Giants did not have a backup
Yes,
kicker,
it's true.
and we lost that game
It's
by
true.
all those extra points that could have been kicked that were not kicked.
We don't want the Giants to win anyway.
Yeah, they were saying that. They
No,
were
we
saying
don't. No,
the
we don't.
Giants scored 3 touchdowns and lost, and Washington scored 0 touchdowns and
Yeah, it's like the first time in the history of the NFL
That's hilarious.
that's ever happened. But
yeah, it's very
it's
brutal.
okay.
If I
Malik
could just go
Neighbors went
back,
off.
if I could just back to the Ingram one, I think I have him in 3 teams. The late tight end scratch really hurts
Oh
because
yeah,
I don't know about
Oh
you
yeah,
guys. I don't roster a second tight end,
0.
very
and
rare.
trying to figure out which tight end to start when your starting one is out is a very difficult proposition. So
Because then you gotta drop someone too if your
you gotta
IR spot
exactly,
Yeah,
is full, right? So
exactly,
that's another thing that sucks
yeah,
as well with
yeah.
a late tight end injury.
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna move to our last segment of the pod, which is our FAAB, with obviously 50% or less threshold, according to Yahoo. So we'll start with the QBs. Obviously, the two that remain, obviously in two QB leagues, these guys are typically rostered. But Derek Carr and Geno Smith are still 19 and 34% owned in many Yahoo leagues. So I think even in one QB leagues, Derek Carr needs to be rostered. So go get him right away. If for whatever reason in a 2 QB he's not rostered, I don't know what any one of you guys is doing, but you got to roster him quickly. Some more. Basically, we told you about the Tua news. Skylar Thompson is now the starter. I know they went to get Tyler Stoop Huntley off the Ravens practice squad, but are you guys seeing any value even in a 2 QB league for Skylar Thompson?
He's gonna give like QB4 vibes. I mean, no, he does have a lot. He does a very good supporting cast, and he's able to operate in that offense before. And Nak, you and I know very well that Skylar Thompson, because we've seen him play live in Buffalo in that playoff game where they actually almost beat Buffalo in Buffalo. So it's not as if he's a scrub. I listen. I wouldn't be starting him. I think he's rosterable if you need it. If you lost one of the many QBs that we just spoke about right now, who are going to be out for the majority of the season, I think it's not a horrible idea to put him on your roster just in cases, and then just wait it out and see how it feels if you have a roster spot to burn in a 2 QB or a super flex league, because the guy he's not throwing to nobody. He's still throwing to Tyreek Hill. He's throwing to Jalen Waddle. You have Devon Achane that can make plays out of nowhere too. It's not
What do you
impossible to think that he can come back with some serviceable numbers, but still, proceed with caution there.
what are you spending?
Oh, like a few bucks. Like I'm
Like a
spending
few
like
percent.
$2 at the most.
Anyone that really catches your eye, Raj, like a QB that I mean, there's also the news that Bryce Young is has been benched, so
Yeah.
Andy Dalton becomes an interesting one. What do you think?
Yeah.
You spending money on Andy Dalton?
Yeah, so I stupidly drafted Bryce Young as my QB3 over Derek Carr and Sam Bradford. I was thinking, well, second year QB.
Sam Bradford,
I
blast
do
from the
this all the
past.
time, man. I do this all the time with Darnold.
Sam Darnold,
I do it all the time with Darnold.
that was good.
I just said it and I was like, oh yeah, just Sam Bradford, Sam Darnold. I was thinking, look, Bryce Young, number 1 overall pick, the Dave Canales. What did you call him last week, Fab? Bobby
I
Canales?
think I said
Bobby
Bobby
Canales,
Canales.
yeah, you did.
For Bobby
There's
Bobby
also Bobby
Cannavale.
Bobby
Cannavale.
Cannavales.
Guys, there's a lot of names to remember. To all of our listeners out there,
We're
we try our
old.
best, okay?
We're
We try
old.
our best.
We're old. Anyways, I was thinking, look, take a flyer on him. There's no way. I can't keep owning Derek Carr. Like I always struggle with him, and I regret it. Obviously, I dropped him yesterday before the news that came out that he was going to be benched.
Dude, you dropped him at like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like I think he was still playing when you dropped him.
He was. Yeah, I was just like, I think I needed a kicker at that point, and so yeah, I dropped
Just
him.
hold on a second. Just to put things into perspective for all of our listeners, we are in a 2 QB league. QBs are massively important.
Yeah.
Roger dropped Bryce Young, who at the time was still starting and I believe playing for a kicker who he hates.
I hate kickers.
Just goes to show you the type of disdain that Roger had towards Bryce Young.
No, I like him he seems like a good kid. I really liked him at Bama.
I like him as a person.
I like
I
him
like him
he
as a
seems like a
person.
great kid.
He looks great in those commercials.
He literally looks like a kid, which is the sad part about this. But the thing with like it has to be better with Andy Dalton. So I might put some money on it because I'm gonna need a bye week QB week 7 for I believe Geno Smith and week 10 for Dak Prescott. I'm gonna need a bye week QB at some point. I don't know how long this is gonna last though.
So what are you comfortable? Percentage are you comfortable going with for an Andy Dalton, even as a QB3?
Like I, I'm gonna put 10%, 10-15% maybe. I don't have a choice. I'm gonna have to replace one
It kind of makes sense
yeah.
unless he's a honestly unless he comes in there and plays worse than Bryce. I don't see how if because Canales said like they did it because the season was slowly slipping away, so we need to make a change in order. But what I don't understand is they're not a playoff team, so like why not try to teach a rookie or
Well,
sophomore
You don't want
like
to say
growing
you're
pains?
not a playoff team
it's
though.
it's
I
year
know,
two.
but
It's year
I guess
two of the Bryce
he's
Young
also trying to
experiment.
save face, right? He's coaching for kind of his job too, right?
But
We've seen stranger things than coaches being fired after 1 year.
it's year two of the Bryce Young experiment, and you're already benching him. Like, what's next for this kid? Like, are you going to try to trade him in the offseason? Like, are you going to go back to him as a starter next year? Like, it's year two. It's 2 games into
There's
year
no
two.
value right now. It would be such an idiotic move to trade him right
But
now.
where do you go? Like, you just like as a franchise, like you just said, like, okay, we're quitting on this kid after not starting him after
It's
2 weeks. Like,
it's a bit like Josh Rosen with the Cardinals. I could see this happening. To be honest, they're going
yeah,
to be
but
a very
Josh
bad
Rosen, I
team.
think, was like the sixth or
10th.
sixth or the fifth quarterback drafted in that. Like, he went a lot higher than he should have. Like
Yeah, he
Bryce
went
Young
10th.
was like number
He
one
went 10th.
overall.
10th overall. If the Panthers are that bad, they're going to take a QB, which
They have no choice.
I think they
Oh,
should,
100%.
and like set Bryce Young to another team. I hope he could be salvageable, but the dilemma you have is he's going to play at some point this year. So what's the risk of? I mean, look, if it's 10% of your budget, knowing that maybe Dalton will play like the next like 6-7 weeks, then you're done with him. That's
I
all
think
you
it's
need for
worth
your
it.
bye weeks, So.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. We're going to move on to our running backs. So obviously the main running back that went down, as we mentioned, was Pacheco, and as Fab mentioned before, Kareem Hunt is visiting them on Tuesday. So we'll see if he signed, because right now they have
Yeah.
Gallagher owner Carson Steele as the backup and Samaje Perine. I think Perine is a good third down back, but he's
Mhm.
not the 3-down workhorse back that Andy Reid likes. I think a guy like Kareem Hunt will definitely fit that mold more. So
He's a
now,
known commodity. He can
yes,
be plugged in right away, and I believe that's happened, if not last year, the year before. I think it
yes,
was the year
last year.
before.
Last year it happened.
It was last year. Yeah, he put up some serious numbers. So if Kareem Hunt gets signed by the Chiefs, like you got to spend fab on him for next week.
Well, that's my
Sorry,
question.
well, or
So
the week
let's
after
let's
rather.
do
Sorry.
let's do the hypothetical. If Kareem Hunt signs Fab,
Mhm.
what percentage are you going for Kareem Hunt?
I think you have to go with like 15% at least, just because the familiarity is there. Like I had Kareem Hunt in his rookie season when the Chiefs started him like as a no-name brand product, and he just went off that year, and it was wonderful to see. And then the stuff with the Browns and everything and all that, and he came back last year. So I think Andy Reid Andy Reid likes the guys that he likes. He likes Kareem Hunt, and he's going to be part of that offense, and he knows the offense well. I don't see how you can blow a little bit of fab because that kid Carson Steele, he's a rookie if I'm not mistaken, out of like
Hmm.
the fifth round or something
But
like
he's a
that.
fullback,
Yeah. So
and he
listen,
fumbled last this Sunday.
yeah, and they wouldn't be going after Kareem Hunt if they didn't think they need him. Obviously, the CEH well is empty for the rest of the Chiefs.
Well, I think he's on IR
He's on pup.
anyways.
He's gonna
He's
be
Oh,
on
he's on
back.
pup.
pup.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
he'll
Yeah,
be
he's gonna
back.
be
He'll be
back.
back at some point. But
My guy.
I
He's
think
your boy.
15. I
My
think
guy.
15% is actually low
Yeah. Eh?
because Kareem Hunt is a guy that you'll probably get for a huge chunk, if not the remaining of the season. Because like we just
True.
alluded to, Pacheco,
That's a
like
very
if
good
he
point.
comes back, his I don't think he's going to be the Pacheco of what we know and see from him week in and week out when he does come back, even if he does after 6 to 8 weeks.
But this is a dilemma that I think we talk about where if you have options, even if you're a Pacheco owner, I'm not sure I'd risk going as far as 15% is my limit. Don't go blowing 20, 25 if you have other options. Because there is also a reason
That's
why
true.
Kareem Hunt is not on a team right now.
Yes, good
Yeah,
point.
that's a very good point as well.
Okay, so Raj, I'll give you the question then. If they don't sign Kareem Hunt, are you going after P Ryan and Steele, and how much are you going after them for?
I'm going after. I'd rather go after Braylon Allen. I think he's going to be a big part of the offense for the Jets. He had 19.6 points, 2 TDs.
Yeah.
He's going to be a big part of the offense. I don't
10% own only.
10%
Hmm.
owned. I think Brees Hall's going to have a great PPR season. I think they're going to use him a lot in the passing game because I don't think they have anyone else reliable from a pass catching standpoint. And I think that'll provide a lot of opportunities for Braylon Allen. They featured him a lot, 7 carries, and I think he's going to keep getting more and more carries. And I liked him coming out of Wisconsin as a really big back who can move and still catch the ball as well. So I'd rather go after the talented player versus just always the opportunity play, which might never happen. And in
Plus, you're
terms of
also
in
getting the
terms of
handcuff too
budget,
for Brees Hall, right?
sorry,
You're also getting Brees Hall's handcuff as well, which cannot be understated
yeah,
in the event he does get injured. And I mean, obviously, Braylon Allen would shoot to RB1 status overnight.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So no interest in Carson Steele or Samaji P Ryan, really.
No, like it's almost similar to what I did with Tyler Johnson last week with the Rams, where it's like you're just putting, and I already regret it. Like you're putting a $7. I put $7 on him, and honestly, I can't imagine starting
Yeah.
him. It's just maybe now, yes, because now Cup is out. But in hindsight, back last week, it didn't make sense because I have better options. So
What about Isaac Guerrero? Now that we know that CMC is kind of he's on IR, do you want to grab Mason's handcuff in that offense? Are you 6% owned? Didn't I think he had 1 carry, 0 yards on Sunday? But any interest there?
no,
If you have a roster spot to burn, that's how I see these guys.
yeah,
Like if you have a
exactly.
little bit of space on your roster and you're not sure what to do with them, and you rather see if there's a lottery ticket out there, and Isaac Guerrero could definitely be him. But I'm not spending any fab on those guys.
Look, for the crazies that play in 16 team leagues,
Yeah,
14 team,
Yeah, yeah,
16
yeah,
team
yeah,
yeah,
for
these
leagues,
sure.
guys
He's
are
got to be
rostered. They're
this
already
rostered.
is
gone.
He's got to
They're already
be.
gone.
He's got to
already
be.
gone.
He's got to
Already
be
gone.
rostered. He's probably not. He's probably already rostered. To
Yeah.
be honest with you. And then last one, I know that, but we spoke about Bucky Irving last week, but still only 34% owned now with the Rashad White groin I think the I think we said about 10% last week, roughly for Bucky Irving. I think that shoots up almost double now with an injury concern to Rashad.
Yeah, he went for 12 in our league, right? In Bush League with
14 to me.
14 with you. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I agree with that double.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah.
Like you're almost looking at 20 to 30% now for Bucky Irving, because I think after him, there's not much on that in
People
that
are gonna have
backfield.
no money left, man.
Well, that's how it is, man. After I have like $55 left after week 1. I spent
Usually,
all kinds of fab money on like Likely and who's the other guy? I spent. I had all my money was gone.
I have a question. If you spent how what's the limit on when you could drop a player when you spent fab money on them? Like how many weeks until you're like, okay, I need to drop this guy?
Look,
That
I'll give you an
leash gets a lot
example.
longer. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
and I'll give you an example. Last year with Nick, he picked up Kenneth Gainwell after that first game of the year when Swift had only like 3
Yep.
carries or whatever. He put 20% of his fab on him and literally kept him because he spent 20% of his fab. So what I
I'm gonna
will
do it.
tell everyone, guys, you've got to rip the Band-Aid. If you made a mistake,
Oh,
no matter
100%.
what you spent on him, you are just going to sink your ship if you just say, "Oh, well, I spent $42 on him." You can't get that money back. So it's what's done is done. If someone else is available and, "Oh, well, I only have this," guys, go after that person, because if you've made a mistake, now you're just keeping the mistake for the fact that you spent money on him. Get rid of him, pull the Band-Aid, don't wait long, and and
Fab,
and move on.
Fab, what do we call
So
that in finance? Sunk cost.
yeah, 100% it's a sunk cost. Oh, it was a sunk cost the second you spent the money on them, to be honest with you, because you're never gonna recover those funds. But in the league that I was referring to, where I spent all my fab money in 1 week, I picked up Demarcus Robinson, Isaiah Likely, and Jameson Williams. Puka Nacua went on IR for me, so I was in a bind at wide receiver. And then
Wait, you
Isaiah
spent
Likely
all your
was just
fab in one
I
week?
spent how much money I have left? I spent like $40. I spent like $45.
Okay, that's
I
not
spent
bad.
almost
It's
half, but
all.
I spent like half my budget already. Demarcus Robinson, I spent $5 on him. I'm waiting for this week to pan out, like week 3, to see what he's going to look like in that offense with no offensive line, with no more receiving weapons. How's Matt Stafford going to do? And after week 3, I see that he's still getting me 2 receptions for 30 yards or whatever the case may be. I'm going to rip the Band-Aid. It's $5. I'm okay with it. It's fine. If I had spent $15 on him, I might have kept him. I would probably think about keeping him a little bit longer. But at the same time, I knew that like he was going to be a temporary fix until Puka Nacua came back.
I think money has no bearing for me. I'll drop him the next week if it's
Well,
just really like
money has a bearing for me because and I'll tell you why. Because the value that you put on him is relative to his value for the rest of the season. Like you just said it before, right? When you're speaking about Kareem Hunt, you would put 20% on him for the rest of the season because technically he can stand the rest of the season. It's the same idea for me too. Like Isaiah Likely, I put more money on him because I thought he was going to be a viable option for the rest of the season. It's only week 2;
yeah,
things
but
can
I don't
change
think
quickly.
Isaiah Likely is the guy. Like I'm not keeping him because I spent all that fab. I'm keeping it because like those are the options they have in that offense, right?
Yeah,
Like there's gonna be a role for this guy. It's just gonna be volatile at times, but there's no way I'm gonna keep a guy around, a backup around, like
yes,
okay, I just spent $14 on Bucky Irving. If I see in 2 weeks a guy's not getting any carries,
yeah.
3
But
weeks he's
I
not
would have
getting
spent
any
$14 on Bucky Irving because I think I'm going to use him for a few more weeks than just one. That's the difference.
for sure, for
Yeah,
sure. Obviously, your thought process when you're buying a player is
100%.
the long-term availability or there's an injury and
It's also it's need too sometimes. I know some
for
people
sure.
might have went super high on Likely because they needed a tight end, and that's fine. But if you're properly budgeting your roster for the rest of the season, you got to look at rest of season. And
Don't
like
make the same mistake again after. That's the
yeah,
thing.
like
Yeah, that's that's very
Braylon Allen.
important.
If Brees Hall goes down on week 3, Braylon Allen, 100% of your fab budget because he's there for the rest of the season. It's the same thing with Jordan Mason too. We had the argument Jordan Mason, you could spend 100% on him last week.
J.K. Dobbins went for 100% in one of my leagues.
Yeah, like that
He went for $100, and I think
that
the
makes
low
sense.
the second lowest bid was 73. So
Yeah,
You know what I
That's
mean? Like
crazy. Good
but
for good for that. Good for the
That's
person putting that bid, man.
But you,
Honestly, good
you
for
do that
but
him.
it's
for
justifiable.
talent. You do
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
for talent,
justifiable.
not for guys who just have the opportunity. It's
I
really,
agree.
really
yeah, I
important.
agree.
I
Just
Yeah,
agree.
because someone has an opportunity, but he's not talented, doesn't mean you spend everything.
it's just like us on this podcast. We have opportunity, but no talent at all.
That's
Some
not where I
maybe some of
thought
us.
it was going.
Maybe some of us.
I was waiting for a compliment. But
Self-deprecating humor, guys. It's really fun. Try it
We're
sometime.
gonna move along to the wide receivers. So the premier wide receiver who's on the who's 7% owned right now through Yahoo is Mr. Quentin Johnson. So he had a big game. Maybe it's his breakout performance, and for more to come. Raj, what are you doing with this guy? How much are we spending to get him on your roster?
look, if I have to spend, I think in the 15%, but I'm out. Like I'm not spending money because I'm weary of the Lad McConkey stuff. I'm weary of Josh Palmer at some point. I think he'll wake up. And I'm just worried of the fact that this team runs the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to be a running team. They're going to be super efficient. I think they're going to score a decent amount of points. But week to week, I don't know if I could trust a specific wide receiver. So personally, I'm out. But if gun to my head, if like I really need a wide receiver because of crazy amount of injuries, 15%, 15, I can't do 20, 15%.
I could see this guy going for 20-30% easily with
Yeah,
all the wide receiver
yeah,
injuries around the league.
I agree with Mac.
Someone is going to have like two of these big guys and is
Hmm.
going to say, "Oh man, I need someone." They're going to see the shiny new toy that happened in week 2. I think it is. I kind of tend to agree with you. I think it is a mistake just because yes, they're going to be a running team and they've shown that through 2 weeks. But I easily see 20-30% spent on Quentin Johnson across all leagues for sure.
So he had 5 targets in week 1. He had 6 in week 2, but week 2 he had 2 touchdowns. So that's where a lot of it is blown up. I agree that I wouldn't want to spend more than 15%, but at the same time, like if you're needy, 20%, 25%, like I wouldn't call you crazy either because you would imagine that there is a role for him in this offense, right? Like they didn't necessarily replace Keenan Allen when he left. Josh Palmer is fine, but it is Quentin Johnson's team from a wide receiver standpoint. And sorry, they lost Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So there's a lot of vacated targets that should be going Quentin Johnson's way. He had a tough matchup. He has a tough matchup coming up against Pittsburgh and Kansas City. So there's obviously be advised for that because the numbers might not replicate that.
And Herbert's injured. That's another big
Yeah.
one for me. I think you're right with the 15% that you'd want to put on him. I don't think you're getting him for 15%, but I think it's going to take more. But again, yes, I would beware with that one as well. An interesting one is Jalen Naylor, 1% owned Vikings wide receiver. Now Justin Jefferson's been banged up, Addison has been hurt, and Naylor has been reaping the benefits. Any interest there, guys? Fab?
Um, yes, but to a very small degree. Again, if I'm wide receiver needy, I put a few dollars on that. Sam Darnold is a good quarterback, but you know, Jalen Naylor is not Justin Jefferson. Just like Justin Jefferson is is in a league of his own, right? So I wouldn't be spending too much money on that. And plus, you kind of want to play the wait and see game too. If Justin Jefferson does miss any games, so I wouldn't be overcommitting any fab right away.
Yeah, I thought Hawkinson was going to be back a bit earlier, but I just saw he's going to be back maybe sometime in November.
Yeah.
Depends on when Addison is back. That's
Yeah, but I could see 3 to 5% easily for him
yeah,
if you need some depth or if you need some wide receiver help this week just to cover a
yeah.
wide receiver loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's also, Tyler Johnson wasn't. I thought he would be picked up more, but still only 11% owned. So that one could see his
Well,
numbers go
especially
up as
now,
well.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
yeah, I'm holding him
yeah,
now for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
that number should spike. I think he goes for a little bit more this week. He's probably in that 10 to 15% range. He's still got Matthew Stafford there, so I think he still goes still high. And what guy we spoke about is Yosibas, 7% owned, lingering hamstring for Higgins. Chase is still not himself, so maybe I'd probably go in that 5 to 10% as well. He looks really good.
What about Alec Pierce? It's 2 games in a row now. He puts up some serious points. He's not getting necessarily the targets, but he has already more targets than like the guy we just spoke about, Quentin Johnson, or about the same.
I just the Colts team is just like very scary, and then you have like a Josh Downs who's going to be thrown back in the mix. He's going to come back if he's not back this week, it's the week after. I know that they want to get
AD Mitchell.
AD Mitchell involved as well, and like right now, like AR doesn't look like the greatest of
But
passers. I'm
like
hoping as an
one week,
AR owner that he improves, but
like 1 week of putting up these numbers is could be an anomaly. 2, I don't think it's a coincidence. So I think you got to be looking a little bit closer at Alec Pierce. And I'm not saying spend FAAB on this guy. And if you do, like a few bucks, not more than that. But if you have a roster spot that you can use up for an extra wide receiver, you could probably do worse than Alec Pierce, because if this could turn into one of those Ted Ginn Jr. type of seasons where he just like had like 4 receptions a game and every single one went for a touchdown at the end of the season. Like, this could be
yeah.
something interesting to keep an eye on, I think.
I'd rather have Yoshivas.
Yeah, I think he's the better for me too, just because there's a lot of mouths in that, like we just spoke about in that indie offense, and there's Josh Downs coming back, the rookie. I think he's reaping the benefit of a wide receiver being down, but
Maybe.
um, yeah, these are guys that are kind of depth plays, so not too much fab on them. Then we finish up on the tight ends. Hunter Henry had a really good game on Sunday, 18.9 points. He's only 24% owned. There's Mike Gesicki, like Raj mentioned, 5% owned, 16.1%, 16.1 points in week two. Zach Ertz too, quiet 10 points, 8% owned, and a Jonnu Smith that might become somewhat of a security blanket for Skylar Thompson, who's 6% owned. Who do you like, Raj, in the tight ends?
I like Ertz. I've always liked Zach Ertz.
Ertz, yeah.
Yeah, I've always liked Zach Ertz, and I think he was solid last year with. Is it last year or 2 years ago with Kyler? I believe even last year he was pretty good until he got injured, and then McBride took over. But I think Ertz is a guy you could probably get at a bargain. I mean, you probably get him for like 3 to 5%,
I think you can get him for
and
free.
Yeah, I
probably
think
get him
you
for
have,
free
yeah,
too. Yeah,
100%.
probably get him for free too. Jaden's gonna have to find the tight end because he gets rid of the ball really quickly. And Terry McLaurin is not going to be a benefactor anytime soon. I think it'll come at some point. But because Jaden Daniels gets rid of the ball so quickly, I think there's some room for the tight end there, Zach Ertz, to have a decent amount of success.
Fab, any other tight end that tickles your fancy?
Former Dolphins tight end, Mr. Mike Gesicki. I don't know. I always follow the targets, and he had 9 targets last game. I think he might be a little bit more matchup dependent, because once they're back to a full roster, he might be more of an afterthought. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Joe Burrow hasn't exactly ever been targeting his tight ends. So this
Exactly.
might be more of a short-term type of play.
Mm-hmm.
But the matchups aren't that bad coming up. So it could be something interesting, but I wouldn't spend any fab on him. It's just something to keep on the radar.
Yeah, and I always liked Hunter Henry, but the problem with him is that he always has a big game.
Yeah.
You spend fab on him, and then he
So
disappears for
true.
2 weeks, and then you're pissed. You drop him, and then that week you drop him, he'll put up the 18 points again. So
He's very inconsistent.
yeah,
Very.
that's the definition exactly of inconsistent is Hunter Henry. So he's 24% owned, so he's the most owned out of the ones we mentioned, and with the QB situation the way it is, I think, and their wide receivers, I think Polk though had a touchdown in week two,
He
which
did.
is nice to see. I think he's going to be one of the better wide receivers moving forward. So Hunter Henry, another one, if you really need plug and play, but just beware because he did have a good week in week two. So week 3 and 4 might not be as great. Well, guys, that about wraps it up for our week two Sunday recap. Don't forget to join us tomorrow as well, we're recording tomorrow, so join us on Wednesday with our Monday recap and our love hates for the week. We had we hit on a few of them, which we'll touch on tomorrow. So be sure to check us out there. Again, guys, please follow us on social media: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, wherever you get your social media outlets. Uh, Raj, cue the music, baby. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening so much. We really, really appreciate you guys. Again, on YouTube as well. Please go subscribe and comment, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Peace out, everyone. Enjoy
Bye, guys.
Monday Night Football.
Monday night. Yeah, it's true. It's right now. Let's go
Right now.
watch.
Right
Let's
now.
go watch the
I'll
second
grab
quarter.
some supper.
Supper, you and your 10 p.m. supper.
Your late
Man.
supper.
I'm
Suppers.
European and I like eating late. Sue me.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.